Hi, Home and Texture. I'm Marissa Calhoun, a creative director. Welcome to my home. My home is a 1920s Spanish style home located in Inglewood, California. It is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. Moving to LA 5 years ago, realizing that I wanted to put roots down, having a pandemic and trying to house hunt, all of those things led me here. And so I feel really grateful to call this place my home. When I first saw the house, when I pulled up, the whole house was a bubblegum pink. And I knew that I wanted to keep elements of that in the house, even as I evolved the design aesthetic for outside. One of the first textures you'll see when you arrive at my home is the texture of the outside of my exterior. It's a Spanish stucco. And then you'll see some of the other textures include stone. There's a lot of brickwork. And so I wanted to sort of blend these earthy textures with textures that were a little bit more smooth, just to elevate everything. I also have a lot of friends in my front yard. They're my friends. I am a huge fan of frogs. I won't even tell you how many there are. It's kind of like a game. And one of the things that'll be fun for my nieces and nephews to do when they come visit is to count and guess how many there are. My favorite space in my home is definitely my kitchen. It's my favorite place because I love to cook. I love to sit around the table and have a cup of tea. It's really a space that feels warm and inviting and all the things that I want to feel in a kitchen. Being here in Inglewood, living so close to the coast as I do, I really wanted to go for a coastal vibe. And so I did things like incorporate some really bright white Spanish tile with pops of pink. When choosing the granite, wanted to make sure that I was choosing something that felt both durable and classic. It's nice to have things out in the open that are both functional and design elements. I didn't just want a bunch of stuff up here that I would never use. Another cool thing about this space is I had to have this faucet over the stove. No carrying a huge pot across the kitchen. You're right there. Your water's right there. I wanted to do sort of like a high and low contrast with my cabinets. And so my upper cabinets are this beautiful oak wood color. My bottom cabinets are white. And so by creating these subtle bits of contrast in the kitchen can still give it some depth, some dimension, and some texture, but really keep things grounded in the coastal vibes that I really wanted to emulate in the space. Coming over here to my little breakfast nook, this is my baby. This is a custom nook that I worked with a designer to build. So it's actually built into the house's frame, and it is a really hard circle. I really wanted to do a banquet style bench, similar to something that you might see in like a 50s diner. But I also wanted it to be a little bit more modern. So rather than going with like a leather, I wanted to go with a soft cloth. A lot of the incorporation of color comes through accessories in this kitchen. But in this case, I really wanted to have both the pink tile and the pink back seat for my breakfast nook bench be fixed pieces and really show off the boldness in the design. So now we're in my powder room, which is a space that people tend to be really afraid of experimenting with in most houses, just because the space is so small. They often think darker colors will shrink it even more. I knew that I wanted this space to be just as warm and just as inviting as every other space in my house. I knew that I wanted to inject a lot of bold and bright colors. And so I started by choosing a base wall color that was going to give it a bit of pop. And then to have some fun, I decided to do this really interesting contrast and have this wallpaper, which sort of reminds me of like being on safari or being in the jungle. It is all about my journeys, my travels. I wanted to just bring in some different textures and colors in this space and just have fun with it. With my dining room in particular, I know that I wanted it to be a gathering space where I could come and gather and break bread with friends and family, and it could also offer us a space for reflection. And so I wanted the walls around my dining table to really wrap us in love, wrap us in memories, and also to really reflect where we've been and where we're going. I have a lot of different imagery. I have a piece that I love called Solomon by an artist that I love and respect. I have a piece that I created myself. I put a lot of thought into the textures and tones that would make up my dining space. I wanted to have remnants of cloth to represent kente. I wanted to have soft and smooth textures. I wanted to have rough edges. I wanted to have pops of color. And tonally, I didn't want it to fit too neatly into any one box. Mixing colors that people might not immediately think go together, and also mixing textures and textiles that people might not immediately think go together is how I kind of arrived at this space. So now we're in my backyard space. It is a space that I'm hoping one day I'll be able to throw parties and have barbecues, but right now it's still a very work in progress space. Still, it's a fun place for me to come, chill out on a warm day. If you look closely, you'll even spot a few of my frogs. I carried my favorite accent color, pink, into the backyard space as well, whether on the trim of my garage or the trim of my back door. And so in the front yard, it's more of a desert oasis, but back here, I'm bringing in a bit of a tropical vibe with the bougainvilleas. And so you'll see that carried throughout the space. You can't live in California without having outdoor kickbacks. So I wanted to make sure that I had space for that. I wanted to make sure that I had a seating area with tables and chairs and shade where my friends and family could come and we could barbecue. I also wanted to make sure that as the sun continued to set, you could create a little bit of a vibe. And so I wanted to make sure that I had a fire pit area where we could hang out and everyone could sit around. I've also got a lot of fruit trees in the backyard. This space is really just, again, about creating that vibe, creating that space to just sort of hang, and really excited for it to be a space where my friends and family can come and hang out. It is okay to mix color. It is okay to mix texture. It is okay to mix patterns. And once you do, you'll really find something beautiful. I'm Marissa Calhoun, and you're watching Home and Texture House Tours.